everybody.
Did the opener play? Did the opening song?
Yeah.
Did the opening song play? I didn't hear it. I couldn't hear it.
It did.
Oh, okay. Well,
Can you hear me? You hear me, Tym Moss? I'm calling your name.
Yes, because I was going to do a little dance.
Okay, yeah, I like that. It's like very sensual, sultry. Hello, everybody.
That's
Welcome
me,
to
sensual and sultry.
That's what the word on the street is. There's other words too. Welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. I'm Wendy Stuart. And
Tym Moss.
How was your turkey day, Tim? You had
my goodness,
thousands.
Oh my goodness, it was absolutely wonderful. But oh my gosh, was it a lot of work? I had been prepping for almost a week, and but it all came out perfectly. I made a turkey and a ham, and the mashed potatoes and candied yams, and mac and cheese from scratch, and bedeviled eggs and candy. Just like everything. It was really fun.
And then people I know come all day, right? They come.
Friends were just in and out all day, just eating and leaving and eating. And it was so much fun.
Oh my God. I think I love that. I totally love that you do that. I think that is so great. I went to a restaurant, which I have to say, I really enjoyed that, because what you're describing, I tend to take 10 helpings of everything. And then it's like you're sitting in the chair and you feel like the stuffed turkey, right?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that people are coming in and out and getting a plate full of food and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, let me just get a little more of that. And then the next people would come in and they get a plate full of food. And I thought, yeah, that looks good. Let me get a little bit of candied yams. And so I was just like munching constantly all day. And
then you couldn't move, right? Then you couldn't move. My gosh. Well, I was so excited to be at Pangea last night. We celebrated Libby Edwards, the amazing Libby Edwards, her birthday. But last night we had here Austin Pendleton, Barbara Blair, Richard Maltby, and Gretchen Cryer from the show I'm Getting My Act Together and Taking It on the Road, which one of the first music pieces I ever learned, I'm not a singer, but I needed it for some audition, was from that show. And I remember looking at her and thinking, oh my God, she's so pretty. She sings, she's a lyricist. And so to meet her here last night was like, she's pretty, she sings, she's got a fabulous personality. And she was here at Pangea in the flesh. And of course, Austin Pendleton will be coming up in Night of the Iguana.
Yeah, he's and he's also going to be a guest on our show in January.
He certainly is. And I greeted him last night. I told him I'm the other host. I know you talked to Tim, and I said, I'm really looking forward. I said, we're doing something special for you. We are pre-recording. We are working around your schedule.
Yes, we are.
Which is totally fabulous. So Friday, December 1st, 2 events I'm hosting for the Hanacue Dance Company's 10-year gala, which will be at the Y on 14th Street between 2nd and 3rd. And then our amazing friend Felipe Rose from the Village People, but just a wonderful singer, recording artist, and a great person, is going to have a screening of his disco film.
Oh, fun.
Union Square. You can go to Felipe's film because there's links. I'm not good with links. Right.
No, I can't, because we're doing 50 Shades of Gay this Friday in New Jersey.
Right. I know. We're like everything, everywhere, all at once. But, Tim brought up 50 Shades of Gay, December 8th.
Well, and then December 8th, we're doing it here in New York and at the Copacabana.
Right. And you can access ticket links, go to Icavelli's page, go to Tym Moss's page, come to my page. I've been sharing it. It's a wonderful show. It's at the Copa. You would have a really great time.
Now, this is going to be a real fun show. Very fun show.
Fun and games and mayhem. And then December 9th, I'm performing with the Imperial Court. I'm now in Marquesa and the Imperial. It's too hard to say. I think I liked when I was Countess Wendy Darling with the Imperial Court, because I would introduce myself as Discountess Wendy Darling. But anyway, we'll be performing at Pieces. The show is called The 12 Drags of Christmas, which will be fun. And that is December 9th at 7:00 at night. And you know what? There's a million other things in between. But Tim, it's like exhausting. Like when the holidays are over, you just need to take a breath. of course, we'll have my upcoming birthday, but I'm not going to talk about that now because that's
let's take a breath before that. But
but
I always enjoy the holidays. Lots of shows and running from this place to that place, and I enjoy that very much.
Now, I have a question about the holidays for you. Are you doing urban stages with Sue Matsuki?
No, I don't have Winter Rhythms is not on my schedule.
Winter Rhythms. That's I can't say it. I'm sorry.
But I think that's after the first of the year. I might, but it's not scheduled yet.
Okay. You have to let me know when you're going to be where. And, Tim and I don't even get to talk to each other. What we do in casting, we go to openings and it's like, hi, Tim. Hi, Wendy.
Yeah, and this is when we usually catch up is during this show.
How sad is that, ladies and gentlemen, right? That we have to live stream to catch up.
But I have to tell you, one of the most wonderful moments I've had in the past couple of weeks was I had went down to Jersey to go see Laura Cheadle with Ike. And so I went down to South Amboy to get in the car with him to go, and he was just finishing with Wendy on a recording session.
Right.
And you just missed your train, so we had to wait for an hour, and the three of us actually got to sit down and just relax and eat and laugh and talk. We never get to do that.
We never get
it was wonderful.
We had sushi and hibachi in South Amboy, New Jersey.
Yeah, it was good.
It was really good. When did we ever get to do that? Well, thank you, Tim, for calling out that magical moment. So speaking of magical moments, our guest today, I knew his name from the riveting memoir, Transfigured, My Journey from Boy to Girl, Woman to Man. An acting career that has spanned decades, and most recently in Twisted at Theater for the New City, playing the fabulously delightful Lavinia Montblanc de la Croix. And I hope I said that French enough. And this person was voted one of the 50 most influential LGBTQ authors of all time. Do you all know what an incredible honor that is? And if you read this book, you'll totally know why. This person tells a story of survival, living on the edge, and he's currently paying it forward, which I love, as a gay man of trans experience, helping others explore what he calls their identity journey. And I love that too. Wow. Let us welcome Brian Belovitch. Come on to the newsroom. Okay, so
we love Brian. How are you, Brian?
Hi, Tim.
My apologies that I cannot be there in person, but I got like a little bit of a cold and I did not want to give it to you guys. So
no, that's called being considerate. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. Brian, really great to have you here. Brian is responsible for me being up till 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, for a week and a half. It was wild. It was so wild because I could not put the book down. And then there were so many names and events and places that, of course, I connected to because, well, beyond your childhood in Rhode Island, you and I came to New York at the same time. Hearing that you worked at the Saint and then, the place right, Limelight, Pyramid, the whole 9 yards, the names of the mutual people that we knew, and of course, Studio 54, but we never met each other. How
isn't that amazing?
It's just unbelievable. Brian, what made you decide to write your book at this point in your life? It came out in 2018, right?
Yes.
And when did you start it?
I started it. I had fits and starts with it. Excuse me, but I really focused on starting it in 2017. I had some time available, and I knew that I was going to be able to do it. So I really had the time to really focus on it and get it done. So it took me about a little over a year.
Yeah,
writing every day, and then.
Did you, I'm amazed at your memory. Did you have to work off of a journal?
I did have a few journals available, but mostly it was from my memory. And
wow.
Right, Tim?
And I wanted to write the book because I wanted to make sure that I left this legacy,
absolutely,
and this account of
what happened.
of what happened,
Yeah.
and also the historical context of the time that I grew up in the 70s and 60s.
Besides the writing being incredible, because there's so many memoirs, but the writing was incredible. The descriptions and the way you encompassed the time and your perception of it. But what came through, by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, how did this person survive? We all lost so many for so many reasons, but you were really on the edge.
Yeah, and that's not lost on me today.
We're here to celebrate you.
We're
right?
here to, every day is a new day, and
Right.
I'm so grateful that I did survive. I often talk a lot about, I do a lot of public speaking, and
Of course.
I'm never forgetful about like the danger of the times and the risks that I took, as a person of trans experience back then in the 70s and 80s. It was very different than it is now.
So
absolutely,
like night and day.
Yeah.
But
again, can you just maybe shed a little light on the listeners as far as it's hard to explain? New York City was a different city in the 70s.
Right.
And life in general was different. We did not have marriage equality. We were not even allowed to say we were gay openly.
Right.
No.
Can you just touch on that a little bit about life in the 70s and your experience as trans?
Well, we didn't have marriage equality, but that didn't stop me from getting married.
Yes.
Right.
Because I had what kids call today passing privilege. So 9 times out of 10, I was sort of stealth, under the radar.
Yeah,
People
stealth is what we say.
Didn't really know what, they would not know that my gender was not assigned male.
So you were passable.
Yeah, I had passing privilege.
Tim, when we show the video later, incredible. And that was the first thing I thought, well, you got to pass because and it wasn't just passing, beautiful face, beautiful body, done to the nines, and then an actress on top of it.
Yeah. So
a lot of people aren't that lucky.
So what the stark difference from then and today is that, there's much more opportunity for, trans folks to really pursue their passion, whether they want to be, actors or singers or writers or directors or nurses or, psychiatrists or doctors or, government officials. We just elected a first, trans woman to Congress.
Right. Well, there's also even on the cabinet, on the president's cabinet, there's
the person who's in charge of health for the whole country.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
That's
absolutely
a big difference between then and now. I mean, we were sort of marginalized to the fringes of society because of, and even within the community, there was not always the welcoming, gay community. There was a lot of transphobia within the community back then.
And that word tranny, I remember hearing it. It had such bad connotations.
But actually, when I was coming up, the word tranny was a term of affection.
Was it really?
I agree.
My trans mothers and my trans friends from the 70s, you'd get dressed and you'd go out and it was like, oh, you're looking very tranny,
beautiful,
like real, like sort of, it was a compliment. But then it turned into a slur for some people.
Yeah,
but there were a lot of differences, and that really informs a lot of what I write about in my book. I had a lot of promise and a lot of, I did a lot of things that they told us we couldn't do as trans. Number one, I married my soldier husband.
Uh-huh.
An army wife,
An army
okay?
wife.
Tupperware parties. No,
Yes,
come on. I
yes.
just
I love it.
Yeah.
I lived in Germany, and with my husband, we would together
Wow.
about 5
Yeah.
years. I was on and off the army base,
Oh my God.
collecting an allotment, and with the other wives. And when I think about
Did any of the other wives, there was
No.
one woman though that you
No.
we talk about, an older woman.
in the book,
Yeah, in the book. Do you think she maybe had a glimmer of something?
she might have sensed the spirit of the devil in me. She was quite religious and, into Jesus very heavily. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that, she might have sensed, but never, knock on wood, there was never any incident, because
Right.
that's another example that I was,
Mhm.
I mean, the guys were always after me all the time.
Right. That was very clear.
So, I could have, ended up like, there's that, what's her name? Calpurnia Adams has that story, which they made a movie about with Jane Fonda's
Oh
son.
yeah, what? Yeah.
Soldier Story.
Yeah.
Soldier
Oh
Boy.
yes. Uh-huh.
And he was murdered
Right.
on the barracks.
Right.
That never occurred to me. I was in like, I was just I was just oblivious to like consequences.
Wow. Wow.
I just did what I did.
But you were just living your life as an army wife with all the girls, your other army wives on a base.
Because I remember like in the 80s and 90s, and specifically, it wasn't until more recently that society carved out employment opportunities for the trans.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I remember in the 80s to 90s, if my trans friends usually had to resort to sex work.
It was sex work.
Yes, and
that was pretty much the only option that was available.
Early on in the game, that's what you did. You were a sex worker.
Yeah, I did sex work to survive.
Right, but you had part-time jobs too. That's Tim. He had part-time.
I had a couple of part-time jobs here and there, kind of weird little part-time jobs. But when I was married, I actually worked. I don't even know if this is in the book, but I worked for the Salvation Army in Washington State, and I was driving my little Camaro. My husband had a nice little Camaro, and I drive into this little podunk town called Puyallup, Washington, from downtown Tacoma. It was a real Salvation Army store, and there I was behind the cash register, ringing up the people, and my name was Natalia, so that it was too exotic for them to pronounce, so they would call me Miss Natalie.
Natalie, yep.
Natalie. They could not get their heads around
Natalia. It was a little podunk town.
They could not. And I worked there for the Salvation Army, and unbeknownst to them, they would have fired me if they knew.
Of course.
I did eventually get fired, but that's another story.
Pretty much in any walk of life, the life that you were walking at that time, if you were discovered, that could have been literally.
Yeah. It could have been death when you think of it. You took so many chances, and I would read this.
But again, you did it not necessarily oblivious, but just from your heart, right?
Well, I've always been the type of person that I've been sort of self-realized around like things that I wanted to do, and just I had a very good friend who also instilled that ethic into me, Paulie, who like always encouraged me in spite of like being trans. He always encouraged me to think outside of the box and try to pursue a career in acting and singing.
Total support.
And even though society at the time or the culture wasn't having any of it, I mean, they loved having me around when it was convenient.
Right.
Oh, it's window dressing. Isn't she fabulous?
Or as entertainment.
Right.
But when it came to like really putting the pedal to the metal and like, hey, I'd like to audition for this play, or I'd like to get this job, they would be like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
that's where that was the end of the road for me. And so in spite of all of the things,
and the talent is real. I mean, singer, act, even, from the very beginning, but even in spite of that,
I would like to rewind and get it kind of a step by step. Like, where did you grow up? What was the family dynamic, and what led you to New York to begin with?
Well, I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts. I'm one of 7 kids.
Big family.
Mostly, I have 5 brothers, 1 sister. My parents were divorced when I was 5, and we moved to Rhode Island, to Providence, Rhode Island, where I pretty much spent the rest of my early life there. And it was, back then it was, I was this effeminate,
that's
gay
the
boy,
word that they used to use, right?
Sissy boy.
I can relate.
And that caused me a tremendous amount of problems growing up. The teachers. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I know some people are spared, but I was not spared by any of it.
Well, you're the brothers. To have all these macho brothers.
Macho brothers. I got it
from
working class parents, my father, my mother, my siblings, my teachers,
my goodness.
friends. So I was always constantly being bombarded with this idea that there was something wrong. I'm going to put quotes. Wrong with who I was.
Right.
So I internalized a lot of those messages at an early age, and somehow came to the conclusion that, well, if what people thought about me was true,
it had to be true.
I had to take the bull by the horns, so to speak, and do something about it. And so I started dressing in drag. I found that a lot of fun.
Did you do that in Providence, or?
I did that in Providence. Yeah, I did like drag balls and shows.
Now, did your family know this? Like your brothers, your parents?
Well, they did find out eventually, because I was kicked out of my house when I was 16. So they knew that they knew that I was, I mean, I came out to my mother as gay at the time, and she basically, I write about this in my book, that she basically beat me up and told me to get out. And I left the house. I never went back. I ended up moving with this really lovely family, my friend Paul and his mother Gloria, who sort of like took me in, and
Paul.
So there was that, and then I was in the Life, and it was early 70s. So I was at the the gay bars in Providence, Rhode Island, and hanging out with and then I met these other trans folks, who actually were friends of, my brothers used to hang out at a bar in downtown Providence and knew these trans women.
So your brothers, your macho brothers hung out.
They were probably trade at one point.
Right. I love that.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In fact, I know that to be true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, my brothers were trade to these really beautiful trans women that lived in Providence. And they used to tell me,
we realized.
They used to tell me, your brother used to always tell us about it.
Wow.
And we knew that you were going to be one of
us, right?
And so, as fate would have it, I ended up becoming best friends with them, and that's how I sort of started my transition.
But you moved into an apartment building. It was like almost everybody in there, Tim, was trans.
Well, I was going to say, by being exposed to that environment, that helped your decision to move in that direction, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I didn't want to be gay, because for me, the message that I received from very early on, that was the worst possible thing it could be. And so I had a lot of internalized homophobia about being gay.
Interesting.
And
I can relate to pretty much everything you've said so far.
Yeah, I didn't want, that was the last thing, that I wanted to be. And so, me, thinking like, well, if they, I mean, I was, pretty, and I was young. And so it was an easy transition from drag to full-time
female.
Female.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was very young when I changed my name and started hormone therapy.
Wow.
And went.
Now that your name, what was Tish?
Tish
Ended up being a nickname because I changed my name legally to Natalia.
Okay.
And then I shortened my last name, which was Bello. So it was Natalia Bello. And Joan, I used Joan for Joan Crawford as my middle name, which never stuck because, I fantasized that was my ultimate role model as far as beauty.
I'll be like her.
Beauty and glamour and everything. So, that was a stretch on my part. But, so Tish came from a funny incident at that apartment building where I lived, the Lola. You can't make this shit.
The building was called the Lola.
The
Come on,
building was
la,
called
la,
the
la,
Lola Apartments. And it was many trans women and drag queens and lesbians and gay people that lived there.
That is
amazing.
There
was this one African American trans woman. Her name was Mona Gomes, and she was always on speed, and she talked incredibly fast, like you couldn't really understand what she was saying because she talked so fast like this. And, she could never pronounce Natalia, and so she would say, she'd get really pissed off at this pretty young, white queen on her territory, and she would always try to chase me off the corner and tell me like, "You white bitch, get off this corner, you Natasha.
Natasha, I love Natasha.
Whatever your name is." And so that's how Tish my friend Paul at the time thought that was a cute iteration of Natalia. So that's how
Tish.
But Tish really stuck in the 80s when I started.
It's a great 80s name.
When I was performing in the clubs with our friend Michael Musto. Different Dukes and Diva shows and stuff like that.
Your story was so incredible to me because as I was reading your book, the fact that you survived all of it, the abuse in your family, nobody had your back except for your friend Paulie. God bless Paulie. And then you lose Paulie, right? Who she dies suddenly.
Yeah.
Paulie wasn't sick or anything. The universe can be so cruel sometimes. We don't know why. And you were on your own.
Because it sounds like Paulie was really one of the few people on this planet that you could talk openly to.
Yes. And he was the first person that really saw me as a fully realized person and also saw the good in me. Because I'm no genius, but I did have some good qualities as a young person, and I had some promise and talent and ideas about things. But he was the first person that really helped me realize that those were important things in my life and made me feel very supported and comfortable.
Well, Paulie gave you worth
and
said
worth.
To you, you have worth.
Yes. And he died suddenly of an aneurysm. He was like a Way Bandy type
hairdresser, right?
He would if Way, had he lived, he would have been as successful as Kevin Aucoin and Way Bandy, because he was on that fast track. He was doing makeup for big stars, and he did the B-52's album cover and and tons of really famous models. And so but in a way, his mom always says, she was, in a way, it was really painful for her to lose him that way, but more than likely he would have died of AIDS because his partner did, right? His partner did die of AIDS. So it's important.
No, that was in Providence.
He lived in New York.
Yeah, he lived.
So was he the reason you moved to New York?
Yeah, we came to New York together.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I had just turned 18. I think I was a month into my 18th year.
This would have been like 79 or 78?
74.
74.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
In the village at the
Of course you
Albert Hotel.
Oh, my God.
on 10th Street and University.
And University Place.
Yeah.
And it was $35 a month, a
Oh
week.
my God.
We had a little room with a little faucet and
what a piece of history. The hot plate, right?
Yeah. And we both got little jobs here and there. And I had a brief stint where I gave up drag, and Paulie gave up drag, and we were going to just try to be gay.
I love that. I'm giving up drag. I'm just going to be gay.
I'm just going to be gay. It was the time of, the Macho Man and the 70s clones.
Yeah, the clones, right?
Drake.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so that I tried it for a little bit, but it didn't last. It lasted for a few months. And then I was working in a thrift shop on 9th Avenue in Hell's Kitchen. And I would get all these fabulous, like 40s padded shoulder suits and gowns and dresses. And
can you move in just a little bit more?
Yeah. Come over a little this way. There you
and
go.
I started to bring them back to my room, and started dressing again. And then I met some other trans folks. There was a big community of trans women back then in the 70s.
I was just going to say, because they were not necessarily open.
No.
But I'm sure it was a very hidden community.
And it was mostly in this fantastic bar on 45th Street and 8th Avenue, the Gilded Grape.
Wow.
Sort of under the radar. I mean, some people know about history, know about the Gilded Grape.
I knew about the Gilded Grape. I never was in there because I wasn't that person that I am now, but I knew about it.
The building is still there.
I
think it's a sushi place now, a restaurant.
It's no longer a Gilded Grape.
But I remember my husband and I said, let's go in there and have sushi just to see what it's like.
Yeah.
We went in, we sat at it's like L-shaped, and we sat in the L part where the stage used to be. And I started pointing out all the different places there. The disco
what a
ball,
memory, right?
With and at the time, Sherry Vine had come.
We love Sherry
with some of her friends, and they were sitting at a table next to us. And I'm like, Sherry, hi. And we started talking, and I was like, do you know what this place was? And she was like, no, I've never heard.
Oh, I love that you called.
I gave her the whole rundown of
how fabulous.
It was a trans dominant Mecca. Like everybody, it was a very tight community of trans women, where you would go there, you would feel safe. You know, they would have your back if you were turning tricks. You would check in with somebody.
Someone to check in with.
Let them know who you were leaving with, where you were going. Yeah. And it was really very a tight knit community.
But a very underground scene at that time.
And the drag shows, and the trans women. We were doing drag shows as trans women back then. It wasn't anything new.
Exactly.
You think it's like
I lip sync to Donna Summer.
There you go. It doesn't get any better than that.
I remember yesterday I had this big, long, curly, geometric haircut, and so we all did it.
Well, now, speaking of shows, I believe we have a video clip.
We do have a video, the one you
tell us a little bit about this?
Oh, this clip, I believe it's from the Limelight.
It's Limelight,
Dukes and Divas.
Oh, the Limelight.
Yeah, this is the
With the big red staircase.
Yes, this is the Dukes and Divas show, and I think I'm singing with someone.
Yes, the guy that you're singing with.
Rage. So they paired you, Gabriel Rotello, who is just a fantastic friend of mine, even still to this day. He produced these shows at the Limelight, and he found the most incredible, singers, and he would do these theme shows every so often. And actually, he's the one responsible that got me started in the whole nightclub scene.
It was cool.
Yeah, my first show, I was a huge hit, and so I just kept going and going after that. So
love it.
Yeah, so this is one of those Dukes and Divas shows.
Love it.
Well, let's take a look. Take a look at Brian Belovitch. Well, you were. All
right, now here's a guy you might say is the Rage, and the girl who put the bomb back into Bombshell, George Rage and Tish Gervais.
Oh, love it, right?
And I want to make a correction. That was not Brian Belovitch. That was Tish Gervais.
Tish Gervais.
Yes.
Tish Gervais. Yes.
Tish Gervais.
How fabulous. Thank you so
Right,
much
Tim?
for what a wonderful memory of those shows at the Limelight and
there was something.
Palladium. I mean, you played the Palladium and
Yeah.
before, and I mean, that was when the nightclub scene was amazing.
But Tim also worked at the Saint.
Yeah,
I'm like, I was one of the few women
yes.
that went to the Saint. I'm like,
I'd
I can't
probably
believe
let
it.
you
You would have been the one to
I
let
was
me
at
in.
the door.
I-
Oh, okay.
I can't believe
Yes,
that
the
we never met.
the star machine. I can't think about it. The planetarium.
Dome.
Yes,
dome.
the planetarium. Yeah,
Dancing under the dome.
that was so cool.
What a time in New York. I want to say a couple of things to you. The reason I was so blown away by your book, you really hit every point of, as a historian, right? It's not just your memoir. As a historian, you hit every point so honestly and painted a picture of what New York was like in those times. And also what the gay scene and the trans scene was like in those times. And if people like you don't get out there and make these accounts, write them down, make films about them or whatever, it's going to end up, and Tim and I talk about that, it'll end up whitewashed.
They're going to get
or history will change. Like I meet people that tell me about what New York was like in those times, and they're 20 years younger than me. And I'm thinking, first of all, how do you know that? And where did you get your information? Because it's not even correct.
Well, just like Sherry walking in to get some sushi had no idea of the gay history that she was sitting in.
Gay history is really important.
Yeah. And there were a lot of places like that. I mean, but that was one of the, and then it moved from that location up the street to the old Diplomat Hotel, which became the Gigi Knickerbocker.
I was never in there.
And they had a trapeze and a net over the lobby. They had a net over the lobby with trapeze
over the lobby
swings, and they had the disco bats. We had trans women and like
on the trapeze
swinging, and as the whole disco is going on, it was pretty fabulous.
I know. Think about that. So you're in New York now, and I can't remember in your timeline at what point Paulie passes, but someone else took you under their wing. What her name? Evie?
Edith.
Yeah. Another person that was
saint.
So in a way, one angel.
Yeah, Tim, that's the
point.
And
then the next angel.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Thank you. That's extremely insightful, and that's what I wanted to bring out. What amazed me so, it was one angel after, even in his own way, your army husband.
Yes.
One angel after the next.
Yeah. Because I was very fragile and very vulnerable in many ways, given the fact that I was living the life that I was. So when I met Edith O'Hara, who was the owner of the 13th Street Theater on 13th Street, which is unfortunately closed now.
Yeah.
Her daughter is Jenny O'Hara, the actress, and Jill O'Hara. Her daughters, both big, famous.
They are, and Jenny befriended you also.
Are still very good friends to this day. But when I met her, I had left my husband. So here I moved from the safety of this relationship, and I fell into the lap of this amazing other angel.
There was always a net, Brian.
Yes.
You know,
and that
I in the hotel lobby.
I'm telling you,
exactly. There was always a net, and so that net really was pivotal in not only a lot of the decisions I made going forward, but also my choices to be an actor, and I was. And again, at the theater, most people didn't know. Like, I didn't make a big deal. Like, it wasn't something that we did back then. It wasn't like I'm trans and I'm
exactly.
It was very just I was who I was, and my friend Holly Woodlawn was the same way.
Of course,
she was like, if I wear a dress, call me she. If I wear pants,
it's simple, right?
Like who you are is, just
Right.
Just
Well,
Tim, there was no they.
There was no
There was no
Well,
they.
one thing, just my observation growing up in the gay community, or I mean, from like my 20 to about 18 on, but I think that the not conflict, but the misunderstanding that gays had with the trans community is it took so much at that time to accept the fact that you were gay, to come out. That was your sexuality. That was who you were as sexually. But with trans, it was not about sexuality. It was about your gender.
Gender, right.
And that's where I think the wires got crossed, and the gays couldn't understand the trans, and the trans couldn't understand the gays.
Right.
And in my opinion, that was that faulty area.
That's a very
Yeah.
accurate
Yeah.
observation.
That was a deal breaker, the gender identity.
And it took many decades, only just up until recently.
Right, and there's some are still working on that. Yeah,
But
I think 2010 there was a real shift in the consciousness within the community.
I think in 2010 there was, but honestly now, and I talk to a lot of people, it's still, there's a schism.
There is a schism.
And now more than ever, and we talk about this, all those letters need to come together, not be spread apart. Right.
I agree.
Yeah. Now more than ever.
What now you
here's the thing I want to say about that, if I could. Gender is gender and sexuality is sexuality. So like I changed my gender twice.
Wow.
I changed my sexuality. My sexuality was my sexuality. I've always been attracted to men. I've always had sex with men. Lovers have been men. I mean, I have had sex with women, but that was for business reasons mostly. But I've not. My sexuality has always been the same, whatever gender I inhabited. So it really is not about sex. It's about the gender that you're choosing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an important clarification,
which a lot of
too.
People, a lot of people get confused about.
Right. Now, I want to ask you, as one of the pioneers of the trans community, and I mean the trails that you blazed without even realizing it. What is your observation of the community currently?
Well, I think that we've made a lot of progress. I find that it's really disconcerting to me, the battle, like the battles that people pick.
Right.
Nitpicking over like presentation and you're in this camp,
Right. One is pre-op and one is post-op.
And there's all of this stuff. And I, without realizing it at the time, when I decided to change my gender again,
right,
I had no idea how polarizing.
Wow, that was one of my questions.
That was going to be like,
polarizing.
In my own naive way, I thought like, wow, I'm going to be another gay in the gaggle. I'm just going to be another gay person, and they're going to embrace me and accept me, and like, oh, welcome, to our gay tribe, and little did I know that I was going to be met with like this sort of like, I don't know the best way to describe it. Like, I guess it made a lot of people fearful.
Well, makes them uncomfortable. Yeah, you made them uncomfortable.
And a lot of people thought that I was going to be used as a vehicle to be anti-trans.
Wow.
Because I decided that I wasn't going to be trans anymore. I received a lot of pushback.
Wow.
And, even with the documentary and with my play that I wrote, even, the title of the play.
Boys don't wear lipstick. Yeah, boys don't wear lipstick.
And people censored me because of the title back then in 2000.
It was 2000.
It was considered anti-trans language. But the thing about these people, they have contempt prior to investigation.
Right.
So had they come to me
Right.
and, as the playwright and
Mhm.
asked me like, well, why did you call your play that? Well, the title of the play comes from another character in the play, my mother,
I figured
who
who
was
said
screaming at
right.
me like,
Boys don't wear
don't wear
lipstick. I
lipstick.
got that immediately. I didn't see the play. I figured.
So some people in the community back then thought like, oh, that's like, we can't have something like that. And they literally tore
Reality. It's a
my
reality.
they tore
Yeah.
my posters down. My
Oh my God.
off Broadway, beautiful, expensive posters down
They tore them
in the
down.
center.
Jeez,
In the center.
In the LGBTQ
Yeah,
Center
yeah.
on 13th Street.
Yeah. So like
First-
in the
Right.
center where
Right.
here I am
That
now
should be a
as,
safety place.
as a
you
gay
know?
person,
Right.
because I have this that's why I call myself a cis gay person.
Right.
of trans
Experience, right?
I love that.
Because
Yeah.
you know, we're not, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but other people that I know that have retransitioned are not hateful of
Right.
trans people.
We have a
We
very
just
good
made a
right.
different, we just made a
Again.
different choice.
Yeah.
Again, the courage that it takes to retransition.
Thank
Well,
you.
the courage that it takes to transition
Right.
and
Right.
then later to retransition,
Right.
because I'm sure there's so much pressure. There appears to be pressure in the community.
Yeah.
And again, like when someone is 20 and they decide or they've discovered
was
that they are
16.
trans, that
Right.
they're trans, and
Yeah.
begin living that, well, then later in life, life changes. You
Yeah.
don't know, and so
Yeah.
many just they can be so vindictive or so unsupportive.
Well,
Yeah.
the
Our
non-acceptance. It's a
Yeah.
non-acceptance. Who held you up during this time? Because you were attacked by the very community that you should have been a part of.
They should have
gotten
been
support.
celebrated.
In 2000, you know, I'm really shocked that they were tearing your posters down. I'm actually shocked that it was
Wow.
to that degree. Wow.
Yeah. And it was people in my community. And you know, that was really that was really tough.
How did you get through that?
I mean,
though?
I have a tremendous support group of people that do, you know, understand
Got your back.
the
Mhm.
complexities of, you know, what my life has been like. And, you know, those are the people I gravitate towards.
Of course.
So I've been lucky that I have a tremendous community of you know, support from people that are
Right.
pretty much sane.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, that understand the nuances of, you know, like someone made a choice and then they decided to make a different choice.
Well,
and
because they
made a different choice
Right.
doesn't mean that they should be
ostracized.
Ostracized
ostracized
from the community.
from the
I
community.
agree. I agree.
And, you know, I mean, this, you know, you've said it, Wendy. It's a fabulous book. It's very deep and very, you know, compelling as far as
It's compelling. I mean, you
Well,
can't put it down.
You brought us back to the book. Can you please show us the book and tell us where people can get it?
oh yeah, okay.
I'm all ready for you.
We're your
this-
runners.
Yeah, this
Good-
it's
good
still
read.
available on Amazon.
Yeah, that's
and-
where,
and
yeah.
people are still
Transfigured.
Yeah.
transfigured my journey from boy to girl to woman to man, and it's still on Amazon. You can still find it, and people are discovering it still. I'm always
No, there's no still. This
There's-
is such a
there's-
part of our history. This is a
Right.
staple. Anybody that came
Absolutely.
up in New York in the day,
yeah.
any certainly moving forward in what the definition of trans is, you have to read this book. We have a mutual friend, Tim and I, a wonderful person who for 12 years, male to female, not surgeries,
Mhm,
you know, because surgery is a whole other thing. The
Mhm.
surgery, it's no turning back. I don't mean just top surgery. I mean bottom surgery,
Right.
often no turning
Right.
back. But our friend transitioned back to male and did it for a couple of months and then recently transitioned back to female. All of us were like, you know, I'm like, hey, just tell me what name I'm using,
Yeah.
what pronoun. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but that's all it was. And
But we were all supportive, no matter what
Yeah, it should-
what they
be.
needed.
Thank you,
and
Tim.
that's how it should be.
Go live your life. It's your
Right.
life. We love you. We love you unconditionally.
And we're here for you no matter what.
You
Whatever.
wanted to, right. Exactly.
And and that's partially why I, another reason why I love doing these events and podcasts and talking about it. I do this thing, the Human Library,
right, which I wanted to talk to you about.
Which is, it's their motto is unjudge someone. And it's like you become like a human book that someone checks you out in the library, and you tell them a little bit about their story, and unbeknownst to them, it's something they may have never heard about or have some preconceived judgment about. And so you're actually like able to look at them like this and ask questions and understand. And
How
so
incredible.
they have a whole new
perspective
idea about like what a person like me has lived a life has gone through.
You know what that does for people that are questioning, or they're troubled, or they're knocking, those kids that were that got thrown out of the house at 16, I meet them out in Pennsylvania. That is still going on hugely. And we have places here like the Sylvia's place. And we have those places because these kids are getting thrown out.
Allie Forney.
Allie Forney, and then they meet a you. They meet a you, and you know what? It's like, hey, I may be able to survive this. It may be okay.
Right.
One of my best experiences when I did a bit of the book tour when the book came out was meeting this like 14-year-old trans kid in North Carolina.
North Carolina,
came with his parents. And the parents came over to me after, and they're like, thank you for doing the talk and the reading.
I love it.
And then they parted, and this cute little kid just came forward, and he was like so thrilled that I signed the book. And and he walked away, and my friend and I, when he walked away, we both burst into tears.
I would imagine.
We were hysterical sobbing.
But you realize the path that you made for that kid now.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about paying it forward. I mean, with all of this, you're a substance counselor now.
Yes.
You're paying it forward.
I'm a mental health counselor. I'm a therapist.
And of course you went to Hunter, which is right. Yeah, you got your master's there.
And I've been working at a couple of different private practices, and some of my caseload is our trans folks and people questioning their identity. And
Brian,
it's such an honor and a privilege that I get to relive my life full circle in this way and give back.
What do we think the salvation was? What was your salvation?
My salvation?
What came along and because it wasn't just.
Oh, you mean the turning point?
Yeah.
Well, the turning point was with Edith O'Hara, where I had, when I left my husband and Paulie died, and then my mom died, and so I spiraled.
Rock bottom. You were spiraling.
I spiraled out of control with all the grief and the sadness and the unresolved trauma that I'd never experienced dealing with.
Unresolved trauma.
Yes. And I had a big crash. And I write about this in the book too. And I became addicted to crack cocaine and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol were always present in all of my decision making, even from like a baby, as a teenager. And so when I lived with Edith, she was the one that really confronted me.
Yeah.
And she confronted me in such a lovingly beautiful way.
She loved you,
And I never had that experience in my life where someone
how wonderful
actually came to me and said, hey, you idiot, like I really friggin' care for you and I love you, and I can't stand watching you do what you're doing to your life. And like I burst into tears, she burst into tears, and that was a pivotal moment where I was able to get sober.
Right.
And give up, that part of my past, which had been following me closely to almost my death. And I've been sober ever since. I just celebrated 37 years.
Yes.
Right, Tim, right?
You are my hero on so many different levels.
Right?
Yeah. So that was the turning point.
Your salvation.
For my salvation. And then, a year went by of being sober as Tish. And I started to get these really uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable, painful feelings about what I had done and realizing what my part in it was. And I started to look at my life in a different way. And with therapy, of course, with outside help. And I was able to say, hey, you know, this trans thing is not really working out for me.
But that's what I mean. That took so much courage, so much.
Thank you, Tim.
You know, externally, I mean, it looked like anyone would switch places with me.
Right,
which was
right.
the most frightening thing, because it looked like I had everything that I wanted. But inside, I was dying, and I was so depressed and so suicidal.
You had to dig really deep, though, to get down there. Let's layers.
Some archaeological
excavation.
Right, exactly. But to me, you are your salvation. You are the one that looked inside, and you did the work, and you did the digging, and you did it. You did it with the aid of these other people.
Tim, the therapist, though, I have to call this out. The therapist was an Orthodox Jewish woman.
Yes.
Walks in and you knew she had a wig on.
Yeah, I was I was like freaked out.
What are the chances of that, right?
And I don't know. And I had no like judgment about,
of course, but
her. It was something that I didn't know anything about. So I, in my own naivete, I didn't even think like, oh, this could be really bad, or like this could, you know, like, so I just sort of like was open to this experience. Actually, she's one of the more fascinating characters in my my book, because she was so loving and so made such a great space for me to explore ideas about, like, no one had ever asked me, like, what did I think about being a woman?
Right.
What did I think about being?
How do you really feel about it?
How do you feel about being female? Like,
well,
no one asked those questions anymore.
It sounds like she was the caring parent you never had.
Yes.
The mother that was accepting and supportive and all of that, but again, another angel was sent to you. When I looked at you point by point, each of the individuals, they all had angel wings on them. And there's you know, something to be said for that. We have so many comments of the people that tuned in.
Look at all the comments. But one thing about the angel thing, my good friend Tony Zanetta, who you should probably talk to here at some point.
Yes.
He said to me after watching the documentary, he said he had this realization that Tish was an angel.
Oh, yeah.
Protected Brian.
Right.
To deliver him to us in the present form.
Wow.
And that, I was like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. He said, but she protected, she kept you safe.
Right.
So yeah.
Till you didn't need her anymore.
She served her purpose very well.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to read some of these
now and then, you know.
Wow.
We're going to read some of the comments, but we've got to talk about Twisted, honey.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, because Wendy and I went to see your performance in Twisted.
The video.
Sabine Marketing and Promotions says, have a great show today. Lori Tower says, lovely to be with wonderful people. Oh, and she loves my hair. Thank you, darling. Oh, and Robert Mercado says Tim's hair is on point. Thank you. I'm getting lots of hair. Sue's Designs, who's a good friend of ours from Massachusetts, a designer, says, hello, dolls. Let me see. Justin Gooding, also known as Gladiola, Glad Rags.
We love.
Yes, we just did a film with her. She says, thank you for this great video with Brian. I'm always loving your show.
Thank you so much. We have B. Claudia from Germany, such a kind and wonderful guest. Thank you for the thoughtful conversation. Hearts love, hearts don't judge.
Absolutely.
So people who don't have no hearts, future is better without them. Well put. Robert, what a powerful story. Thank you for sharing, Brian. B. Claudia, blue hair is fab.
Actually, I just realized it's getting dark in here because the sun is going down and I had closed the blinds to keep the sun out. So I forgot it gets so dark this early. But so tell us a little bit about Twisted.
Oh my God, do we have time to talk?
Yeah, we're
We will make time.
this is your show.
So I got a call. My dear friend Everett Quinton,
Who I saw do the reading,
who passed
he
away,
did. Yeah.
who I was part of the Ridiculous Theater Company
Right.
with for many years, passed away, and I got a call to step into his high heels as Lavinia, and I was like horrified at the same time, extremely excited to try to do. And so I said yes, and I wanted to do it mainly to honor his memory.
I love that you said that.
And
Yes.
and it was a rocky road. We had gotten to opening night last year. We got COVID and it was shut down.
We know the whole story because we're friends with Evan Lawrence and Joe Batista. But that was more than a rocky road. You all rehearsed. It's important to talk about that.
Because you were ready to open, weren't you?
Equity kept shutting it. Yeah,
Equity shut us down.
And then they couldn't do the play for almost a year. I talked about that with Joe so many times. It made me mad because I knew Evan and I went to the reading, the original. What a great play. How dare they?
That's such a great play. And then
you were so wonderful as Lavinia.
So fun to step back into that role of
but you did it flawlessly.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun, and the response was like unbelievable. Like we were sold out.
Yeah,
got great reviews. I was singled out, and all I wanted to do was make Everett proud, and I feel like I not only did that, but and it was in just an incredible experience, and so much fun to do.
And the title
sing.
You got, but again, full circle. Now you're handed this. The angels have handed you this. This is what you do, Brian.
And the title says it all. It was. But it was kind of like what was that? The theater of the ridiculous.
The ridiculous,
Yes, that reminded me so much of those East Village roots of theater, real raw theater like that. I loved it so much.
Funny, over the top characters, loved it.
Yeah.
Now tell us again about your book and where people can find it.
So my book, Transfigured, there's also a great audio book. Audio book. There's a
but this has pictures in it too. I love
the photographs are in the book. It's available on Amazon. You can find it at any Barnes and Noble may still have back copies. The first printing sold out. So
and also the film. Tell us mention the
film. The film is kind of a sad story. I mean, there is a beautiful documentary by Karen Bernstein. We were invited to all of these festivals at South by Southwest and all over the world, and then COVID hit, and then we were hit with some like licensing issues. So it's going to take somebody with a lot of cash,
deep pockets.
If somebody with some deep pockets wants to, help us fund the film, but
you just put it out to the universe. So
thank you.
And then I've written a screenplay based on
I love it.
My story, and there's talk of a TV pilot.
Yes.
That
good.
Another screenwriter friend of mine has been pushing me to work on her with that.
Wonderful. Well, I'm also an actor, so keep me in mind for any roles on that. I would be happy to help you out with that.
There are tons of great roles for all types of gender identity and sexual orientations. Women, strong, interesting women.
Yes.
Like, you could play Edith O'Hara.
I'd connect it. I am that person. Capricorn, but I am that person. I worn her shoes. I'm still wearing her shoes.
Now there are a couple more comments that came in. Jeff Nicaro says wonderful.
Jeffrey Nicora,
he says wonderful, informative, encouraging conversation.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you for tuning in.
B. Claudia from Germany. Isn't B in Germany, I think?
Yeah, she's in Germany. Yeah.
She said, wonderful conversation. And she says she will review it. She'll review your book.
And Robert Mercado just volunteered to work on that pilot as a director.
Okay.
There we go.
You see what happens when you put it out to the universe. I love it.
And it all happens. Oh my goodness, Brian, this has just been
The book is written episodically, so there's like 22 chapters in the book.
Yeah.
So like I did that purposefully.
Nice.
Yeah, 21 chapters. So that's a lot of episodes.
Yes, absolutely.
But you can't put
episodic television is in me. So
I think it's great.
And I love that happened to you. I'm sorry for keeping you up so late.
It's okay.
It was well worth it.
Did you ever say that too?
It happens a lot.
Brian Belovitch, thank you so very much for coming on and sharing part of your life story and your life path. The amazing path that you took in this lifetime is just remarkable.
And have shared with everybody and continue to share it and pay it forward and use your angel wings out there. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yes.
We have to lift each other up.
We're lucky to do it. You
know? I feel the same way.
I wake up every day thinking, how can I be better today than I was yesterday?
Yes.
Way to go.
That's a good way to be.
No, it wasn't the case. But you'll have to buy the book to find out.
Thank you both for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
everybody who tuned in today. We'll be back next week. Have a great rest of week, and we'll see you again. Bye.
Bye.
Aloha. Cameron, are you there? We need Cameron to pull this off.